So lately, I've been sharing lots of very fast 1 minute time lapses of my portrait drawings. And I thought it might be helpful for me to put together one that's slowed down just a little bit, where you can kind of see more of the process, and to do it as a screen recording on my iPad so you can actually see which tools I'm using, and how and which colors and which brushes and stuff, so that it's a little bit more clear. Oh, and this is Tulip. Tulip is one of my studio dogs. I have three, and Tulip is the youngest. She is about a year and a half. Hi, honey. I know. And she is my favorite to train and to do tricks with, because she just loves to do tricks. She gets so excited. So it's one of my hobbies is I train Tulip. She's really fun. Anyway, she's also a lap dog. So yeah, so I thought I would share a video that's a little bit slowed down. You can see more of the details of how I make one of my drawings. And I did this in Procreate on my iPad. I have an iPad Air 4. And I usually work with Procreate in dark mode, but it was actually really sunny and warm yesterday. It's mid-February in Chicago, so we don't usually get warm, sunny days this time of year. So I couldn't resist but go outside in a t-shirt and sit in the sun and draw, and it was amazing. But when I'm outside on a sunny day, I like to switch it to the light mode. I don't know if it really does, but it makes me feel like I can see the screen a little bit better. So that's why it's in light mode. I switched it to light mode for that, and then I got the drawing started, and then in the evening yesterday, I sort of got cuddled up on my couch with the pups. Come here, Tulip. Come here. Come here. And finished up the drawing. Come on. There we go. And so, yeah, so that's why it's in the light mode. And before I did this drawing, I actually had done, finished up another drawing that I had started the day before. And yeah, I wasn't feeling it. Which doesn't happen to me too often. I usually am pretty, happy with my drawings. But this one, I was like, I don't like it. I sort of just, I lost steam with it, and it just wasn't inspiring me anymore. I don't know. But I finished it for the most part, and I was like, yeah, I'm just not feeling this one. The more you draw and the more you make art and everything, the less and less you end up with the crappy piece that's a throwaway. But that was just one of the days with a throwaway piece, which was fine. And so, yeah. And let's see. So this one, you'll be able to see on here, doing it this way, you'll be able to see how simple I keep Procreate. I really just use 3 layers and just a couple of brushes, and they're the stock brushes that come with Procreate. I like to keep it simple. I even make my pieces in 3 steps. So I draw it with the outline, which is what's playing now. Then I do an underpainting, and then I do the crosshatch layer. And that's it. I keep it really simple. There's no reason to be too complicated. And it makes it really relaxing and fun because you can kind of follow the steps. And it's like that really with anything that you're painting or drawing. If you're just efficient about it and you break it down into steps, it's really not that complicated. Then it just takes practice. And you can also see how I situate the grid. I do use a grid when I work from reference photos on my iPad. This is exactly how my iPad looks. So I usually get my reference on the left-hand side, and then the canvas open on the right. And it's a small iPad. It's only the 10.5-inch one, but it's enough for me because I can zoom in and stuff. Anyway, I like to use the grid because I'm moving things in and out so much, and I'm usually sitting down on the couch, and so it's hard for me to measure like I normally would at an easel. So I like to use the grid because it helps me get some of the bigger proportions in place, and then I use my pencil to do some of the smaller measurements and angles. But yeah, and I keep it a big grid so that you can still see my mark making in there. So you can still see all the line work and everything. And here you can see how I block in for the underpainting layer. And I don't really know how to explain how I choose the colors. I mean, I have a palette of colors that I use for everything that I do, and that's what you see popping up all the time is my palette. That's like colors that I have selected, and I use them in all of my portraits. And so I'm familiar with those colors. I use them for everything. But yeah, I just kind of run around and I just kind of isolate my eye on certain parts of the photo and choose the color that I think is the closest match. And you saw earlier how I edit the photo. So I always edit the photos first. It just helps me get like a vision for it, and it helps me like set the composition and everything. I don't really ever just work from the raw photo without any editing. I always edit it. But it's a very different way than how I work at the easel with the iPad now that I've started doing figure drawing. And I'll share some of those in the coming weeks. But I started going to figure drawing with my iPad, and because I wanted to try to go back to measuring with the pencil and working on the whole figure's proportions and not working from photographs instead of working from life. But I'm not changing how I work. I'm still working with the 3 layers in Procreate and working with my same color palette, but this time I'm using my eyes to sort of filter the live subject on its own without, playing around in the camera app first. So it's a little different, but I'm actually pretty pleased. It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. So it was pretty cool that my eyes have kind of become trained to sort of seeing those colors, or I guess they always have, and that's why they felt comfortable to me. So yeah, that's something else that I've been working on, and I'll share those soon enough. I don't know how, this is where I'm doing the cross hatching, and I don't always start with the eyes, but sometimes it's the most fun part to start with. And I can't really explain how I choose the colors for the cross hatching. It's really just, again, I isolate little sections of the photo with my eye and then ask myself, what colors do I see here? And I usually see like 3 or 4 different colors in one little section. And so then I just start marking them down and putting them in place. So it's really just me constantly asking myself, what color do I see here? What color do I see here? And then also thinking about the anatomy and thinking about what I know about like the bones and like the light and how it's hitting, or how there's the folds on the forehead, and I can feel myself like, wrinkling my forehead and then touching it and trying to figure out like how does that feel, and then trying to convey that through the marks in the portrait. Things like that. You sleepy girl?